Welcome to the Broncos Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Renck from the Denver Post. It's been a fun week of doing a lot of different projects, but I'll be honest, if this week had gone as it was expected, I would be in San Francisco right now, finishing off a column regarding the Super Bowl, making a prediction, and I'll get into that a little later, but whether the Broncos would have been favored, spoiler alert, they would not. It would have still been fun to cover. Super Bowls are fantastic. I've covered the Broncos. I covered Super Bowl 30 with Cowboys Steelers when I was working in Arizona. Then both the Broncos back to back, 32 and 33. The Super Bowl when the Seahawks beat the Patriots in 2013. The Broncos Super Bowl when they lost to the Seahawks. And of course, Super Bowl. I covered last year's Super Bowl, but of course, Super Bowl 50, the last one the Broncos won. The point of all this, Super Bowls are fun. Broncos aren't in it. And not only that, they kind of got their nose rubbed in it a little bit, didn't they, last night at the NFL Honors? Be honest, watching that show felt like the snub was real in a couple of cases. And again, there's inherent bias when you cover the NFL because you live in this very narrow lane. You see one team more than any other. And I try to go back and watch other games. I try to watch a bunch of games, but it felt like last night the Broncos got a little snubbed, did it not? I want to get into that. And at the very end of the program, I will make a Super Bowl prediction and what that prediction means for the Broncos next season. That's coming up after a quick break. All right, Broncos country, playoff football is still here with the big game. And when the hits get harder, you need someone on your side who knows how to win in the trenches. If you've been injured in a car crash, on the job, or anywhere life blindsides you, you want a personal injury lawyer who treats your case like fourth and goal. No gimmicks, no punts, just smart, aggressive representation that fights for every yard you deserve. Don't sit on the sidelines. Call Hoggatt Injury Law today and get a team that shows up ready to win. That's HOGGATT Injury Law, because championships and justice are built one drive at a time. Again, that number, 1-833-464-4288. Those are my friends at HoggattLaw.com. Welcome back to the Broncos Spot. I'm your host, Troy Renck from the Denver Post. You can find my columns at denverpost.com/sports. That's where we still have plenty of Broncos coverage this week. I am not at the Super Bowl this week. Luca Evans, our terrific young writer, is out there chronicling stuff. He's got stuff from Troy Franklin about wanting to be a 1,000-yard receiver next year and bulking up by 10 pounds, wanting to be that guy. Maybe, perhaps. We'll see. Year over year, no one improved more. So I don't dismiss it out of hand, but I do think the Broncos are going to need to bring in another receiver to create competition. But Luca's out there. Parker Gabriel have a huge he's doing basically looking at each side of the ball each weekend, offense, defense. He'll have huge work this weekend in the Denver Post, so keep an eye on that. It should pop actually online later today. And, of course, I'll still have a column Broncos related today that should pop online later today. I had a great time doing an ABA story on the American Basketball Association. Those who know me know I'm a big hoops guy. Love old and I love history. So doing that story with George Karl, Chuck Williams, Ralph Simpson, some of the greats of the ABA, and certainly with the Denver Rockets and Nuggets. Had a blast with that. And then the Olympics have started, folks. We're going to call them about Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon. The last thing to cement their legacy, win a gold medal for Canada. Can they do that? So, but football is this show. And Broncos fans, I know this is a tough week because outside of a decision not to kick a field goal and take the points and a one Jared Stidham turnover, the Broncos are in this game, which is remarkable when you think where they were a couple of years ago. But they were one turnover, one decision away from playing the Seahawks. And win 15 games? Are you kidding me? They tied the franchise record with 14 wins in a regular season. And to do that, you have to have special players. And they did. And it started on the offensive line with a couple of guys that have been around a while. Quinn Miners is now universally recognized as probably one of the best guards in football. He has been the last 2 years. He was up for Protector of the Year. The new award, it feels kind of hokey, I'll be honest. I know Deion Dawkins from the Bills wanted to create an award and push for it so linemen get recognized. That I agree with. it's a hard award to evaluate because it's a film award, and I don't even frankly know who votes for it. Hopefully, it's people that are watching film because you don't have the stats other than sacks allowed per se. But Quinn Miners was up for it. Garrett Bowles was up for it. No player in Broncos history has reversed course on his career like Garrett Bowles. From being a raw rookie, booed regularly, to when I talked to his wife, Natalie, about it last summer, and she would literally put her head underneath the blanket so she could not see what was happening on the field, the boos raining down. To see her and her family and Garrett go from that to one of the most universally beloved Broncos, both in the community and on the playing field. Now he gets his second All-Pro berth, a Pro Bowler. And frankly, he's got a chance for the Ring of Fame, a very strong argument. He's going to be the longest tenured starting tackle in Broncos history at the way it stands today. He's going to have a really strong argument for Ring of Fame now that they're having team success as well, back-to-back playoff berths. Obviously, if they win a Super Bowl, that would be huge for Bowles. But NFL Protector of the Year. Miners was up for it. Bowles was up for it. And they didn't win it. Joe Thuney, the former Patriot, the former Chief, and now the Chicago Bear, wins the first ever Protector of the Year award. And good for Thuney. I couldn't have told you. I mean, he's a great lineman and has been, but I wouldn't know why he won it. But Bowles didn't. Bowles didn't. And that's unfortunate when you think of what could have happened for Bowles with that recognition to get Protector of the Year. But at least he's in that conversation, right? But he didn't win it. And so when you look at it, what does that mean? That they didn't think it? Either of those guys are better than Thuney? Is it the metrics in the voting? How is it voted? I thought it was a little bit of a snub because in general, a tackle is considered more valuable than a guard because of the blindside issue, because of pass protection. And Bowles didn't win it. But he was in it. And that's a long way from where he was. But it was part of a night of fabric where it felt like the Broncos kind of got snubbed, right? Bowles didn't win it. Miners didn't win it. And there were some other coaching awards that they didn't win as well. That one, there was one specifically that surprised me. I want to dig into that after another quick break. Listen, when you face curveballs from family challenges, divorce, legal separation, child support, alimony, custody, you need a lawyer who understands the human dynamics, the courtroom, and is willing to fight for your rights. You need Ted Shih. A graduate of Cal Berkeley Law, Ted brings 40 years of courtroom and 20 years of family law experience to your corner. Ted's been a social worker, a police detective. First and foremost, he's a trial lawyer. He's tried cases across Colorado and the country. Martindale Hubbell ranks Ted among the top lawyers in the U.S. You want an expert to navigate your family challenge? Call Ted. His passion is putting you first, but he'll work to settle your case. Again, not afraid to go toe-to-toe in a trial. Ted can be reached at theoshie@aol.com. But this number, write it down, 303-475-2981. That's 303-475-2981. Ted promises to respond to your concerns 24 hours, 365 days a year. Welcome back to the Broncos Pod. I'm your host, Troy Renck from the Denver Post. Hope you're having a wonderful week. It would have been much better, for being honest, if the Broncos were in the Super Bowl, right? Would have been number 9, so we can't say that, oh my God, it never happens. It's happened a lot. It's just these last decade has been tough. It was the longest stretch of losing since 1963 to 72. So Broncos country, you deserve better. You deserve these last two teams, 10-7, 14-3, a franchise quarterback, a coach who will have an argument for the Hall of Fame, and then also, good ownership, front office. Like this, now you're back. You're in the game. You feel like every year you got a shot. Like that's how it was when I covered John Elway back in the day, where they might have an 8-8 year, but the next year they were right there at the end. And this team feels that way, especially with Vance Joseph returning and Davis Webb now moving to OC and hopefully calling plays, if not all, then some. But we mentioned Vance Joseph. And no assistant coach had a better year than Vance Joseph on the Broncos staff. That's clear. A few weeks ago, Vance won Assistant Coach of the Year in the NFL by the Pro Football Writers Association of America, people who cover it every day. But then last night, bringing back those honors, The honors had it in for the Broncos, it felt like, right? For the assistant coach of the year, Vance Joseph certainly had a case. You remember, for context, this is a regular season award. What you do in the playoffs is not evaluated on these awards. The ballots are turned in after the regular season to be fair to all the candidates, because some candidates obviously are not in the postseason. Vance Joseph, in the same week that he doesn't get a head coaching job with 10 openings, he loses the award for assistant coach of the year to Josh McDaniels of the Patriots. Oof, that is a gut punch. The voting went as follows: McDaniels 17, Vance Joseph 10, Brian Flores 8, Fangio 4, Clint Kubiak 3. Got all the way down at the bottom with Robert Saleh 2. But Vance Joseph loses by 7 votes to Josh McDaniels. And listen, I don't like Josh McDaniels the way he sabotaged and attempted to ruin the Broncos franchise as his Timo version of Bill Belichick while he was here in Denver. Then he takes a job in Indianapolis. People leave jobs to go with him, and he bails. And then he goes to the Raiders, and it's an absolute hazmat story. And now he's back at the Patriots. One thing's been proven through all this: he is not a head coach, but he's always been a really good coordinator. Do I think he leaned on Tom Brady more than most would like to believe, especially when you look at Brady's success without him in Tampa Bay? I do. But this year, there's no doubt that what he did with Drake May deserves credit. You know, part of me, and I've argued this with my colleague Eric Goodman on our hot takes thing, they had the easiest schedule in 26 years. Broncos' schedule wasn't exactly tough, we're being honest. But one of the teams that was bad on their schedule was the reigning, one of the best teams in the last decade, the Chiefs. And the Chiefs had everything to play for in their first meeting. So when you look at the strength of schedule, Broncos get pulled down in part by the Chiefs. Chiefs aren't your traditional bad team. But again, kind of going to a rabbit hole about that. Drake May's year-over-year improvement is real. The offensive improvement is real. But for Vance Joseph's team to set a franchise record in sacks in back-to-back seasons, to do it when you have an offense that ranks 25th one year, 26th in 3 and outs, to do it with an offense, your own offense, that had 19 scoreless quarters, they leaned so hard on times at that defense to win games. Just feels like there wasn't a complete appreciation for what Vance Joseph did. I understand how these awards work. I've voted for baseball awards, postseason awards for years, for the better part of 15 years. I vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame. I vote for the Heisman Trophy. I get it. So I'm not ripping the choice as much as understanding that it's an individual choice. Sometimes people make it about them, and that's frustrating. But typically, everyone likes the comeback story way more. It's that root for the underdog part. Mike Vrabel won Coach of the Year, and we'll hit on that. And we're talking about Peyton's bad timing. That's where this headline will eventually go. Sorry. I'll get to the lead. But Patriots won, 4 games last year, the biggest turnaround, and one of the biggest turnarounds in the history of the NFL. That story, always people gravitate toward it, regardless of the strength of schedule. Drake May finished second in the MVP voting. And Josh McDaniel, as the offensive coordinator, is going to receive a lot of credit for that. For me, Vance Joseph being recognized as a Pro Football Writers Assistant Coach of the Year tells you what he meant to people in the industry, because the people that vote for that award talk to a lot of coaches in the industry. So McDaniels wins it. I think Vance Joseph, in a week where he didn't get a head coaching job, which was ridiculous, when you look at Matt LaFleur, I mean, seriously. And I get Robert Saleh, we've talked about, he gets it because he can put together maybe a better staff. And I am happy for Vance in this way. If the choice was Arizona or no job, he's better off doing no job, no head coaching job, because Arizona's a dead-end job right now. And if you watch Matt LaFleur's opening presser, holy shit, really? I mean, I just don't see it. And again, part of it is, and I do really like Sean McVay, I do, but everyone that's ever had a cup of coffee or a Starbucks with Sean McVay or bumped into Kyle Shanahan in a hallway automatically gets a head coaching job. It's a little disappointing at times when you look at Vance's resume. And maybe it turns out, as I get in my mailbox and on social media, he's just a great assistant coach. And that could be it. Wade Phillips fell into that category. He wouldn't be the first guy to fall into that category. I just believe he's ready the second time. And he doesn't get Coach of the Year. He doesn't get a job. But he wasn't the only one. How about this? This is how crazy this season was in the NFL. Sean Payton leads the Broncos to their first division title in a decade. 14 wins, ties the franchise record with the 98 team, the best team in Broncos history in terms of regular season wins. Now, that team did it in 16 games. This past team did it in 17, so let's be fair, but still tied the franchise record for wins in a season. The AFC 1 seed for the first time in a decade. And again, it's a regular season award. AP NFL Coach of the Year. Here's the voting. Mike Vrabel, as the comedian Tiffany said last night, Mike Verbal. Do we have a verbal agreement that Mike Vrabel is the Coach of the Year? Yeah, well, she had a better night than Drewski. I'll just say that. You can go watch the clip and find that on social media, him announcing the Offensive Player of the Year. I'll just leave that at that. The voting. Mike Vrabel, 19 first place votes, 302 points. Liam Cohen from the Jaguars, 16 first place votes. Mike McDonald of the Seahawks, 8. Ben Johnson had only 1 first place vote, but finished 4th in the voting because you can rank them. And Kyle Shanahan, 5th. In this season that Sean Payton just had, he didn't even break the top 5. I'm not saying he should have won it, but he's not top 5. And I'd be interested. You can reach out to me on social media who you would have voted for. I don't have issue with Vrabel. I get the story and the culture. The schedule's part of it with me. Their biggest win was basically at the Ravens without Lamar Jackson. But the turnaround's real. The culture, all the things that I credit Sean Payton for doing in Denver, he has done in New England. Create a culture. Guys love playing for him. They're tough. They don't beat themselves. I mean, he's an unbelievable coach, and the way they play, it falls into that category. But the fact that Sean Payton couldn't crack the top 6, and if I had to vote this year, I don't have a vote in this. I would have likely voted Kyle Shanahan because of the division they were in and the fact that they just were ravaged by injuries. There was a joke made at the NFL Honors about that last night, about that radioactivity that may be causing injuries that they have near the stadium and their training facility. And it's sort of funny, but if you're one of the guys that gets hurt, I can guarantee you it's not hilarious. But I would have voted for Kyle Shanahan. I was surprised Ben Johnson didn't get more love. When you think of the history of the Bears and their quarterback play, what he did in that situation, oof. But Mike McDonald, I would have had, my order would have likely been Shanahan, Vrabel, Johnson, Cohen, McDaniel. But listen, there's a bunch of teams that had turnaround. I mean, the turnaround stories in Jacksonville and Chicago and New England are real. Those are always going to draw people in more than just an actual coaching job. But just from an X's and O's standpoint of keeping it together and against a tough schedule, while you're piecing together just parts constantly, your top receivers are gone, your tight end's gone, you're playing with a backup quarterback. I would say Kyle Shanahan regular season had the best coaching job, and they were 1 win away from having the number 1 seed in the NFC. But again, Broncos not getting a lot of love. Nick Bonito also finished 4th in the Defensive Player of the Year voting. That's a non-starter. That award was always going to be Myles Garrett from about week 12 on. He broke the single sack record. I said this last night on social media. Myles Garrett is like Von Miller run through the Kinko's copy machine at 150%. Holy crap. Is he big, strong, fast? He can do like a 360 dunk. I was talking to Von about Myles when I was in Washington earlier this season, and he's just like, part of the reason Von wants to keep playing, he's like, Garrett's going to pass me in like 2 years in sacks. So I can't, he wants to be in the top 10 for a long time. He's like, I got to get to 6. Because if I get to 10 or I'm at 9, I'm getting knocked out by Garrett in like 2 seasons. He's throwing out 20 sack seasons. And he's right. Garrett is just, and he's standing next to Michael Strahan, who had the previous record for sacks in a season. He and TJ Watt, I think, were tied for it. But Garrett standing next to Strahan, and I get Strahan's lost weight. He's no longer playing, but wow, that's a big man. Just quickly, so you know the awards from last night. And that was, and the other one, again, we talked about Garrett Bowles did not win Protector of the Year. He also didn't win the Walter Payton Man of the Year. That went to Bobby Wagner. Usually it's someone who's been nominated a few times, so I'm not shocked that Bowles didn't win that. He had a case. If you look and have time, I've written stories on this. Luke Evans at the Post, Parker Gabriel, but Bowles' work with kids in the detention center, an experience he had growing up that led to him being, foster child and adopted, and it very relatable to his own life experience. But his work with those in the youth detention center and creating his own school for kids that have speech issues, like his own son Kingston, the amount of work Bowles has done in the community is just incredible. And if you've ever been to one of his camps, his football camps he runs, he's very personable with the kids. The message, essentially is it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And no message resonates more with a player in a career than it is with Bowles. Because his start here in Denver, we were figuring he's going to be gone after his fourth season. He didn't get that contract renewed, that picked up the option. Then he gets an extension. That almost never happens, where they don't pick up your rookie option and then you still end up getting a contract extension. Then he got another contract extension and then a third. He has become the longest tenured Bronco. But Bowles, he didn't need an award to validate what he did, but he did win that NFLPA Community Service Award for the season. So he did walk away with that. But at the big banquet, if you will, the NFL honors, Bowles did not win Protector of the Year. Neither did Quinn Miners. That went to Joe Tooney. Nick Benito finished fourth in the Defensive Player of the Year voting. Vance Joseph, who had the best chance of probably any of them, finished second to Josh McDaniels in the Assistant Coach of the Year voting. And Sean Payton, I don't know where he finished officially, but he did not finish in the top 5 in Coach of the Year voting, which is just incredible given the Broncos' turnaround and what they did this season. I know he shouldn't have won. I'm a little surprised that he wasn't in the top 5, but it's hard to argue against this top 5, frankly. That's what's crazy about it. But here are your winners. I know you folks, Broncos country, care about this, and these are names you consider as the Broncos are now relevant in the national conversation, because these are, for the most part, from teams the Broncos have to scale eventually. MVP Matthew Stafford edges Drake May in the closest vote since Peyton Manning and Steve McNair shared the trophy in 2003. Stafford then announces that he will be coming back next season. I believe that because the Super Bowl is at SoFi next year as well, Super Bowl 61. Stafford wins the MVP and announces he's returning next season. The Offensive Player of the Year went to Seahawks receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba. I mean, it's just crazy when you think of that Ohio State group of Olave, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison, the guy who's clearly the best of all of them, Smith-Njigba. Steve Young was saying on Part of the Interruption, I think it was yesterday, he sees Jerry Rice traits in JSN. I mean, come on. That is unbelievable. Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett. I'm going to mispronounce this name, so I'm going to shorten it. Offensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Panthers receiver Tet McMillan. He was just, you guys know him from Arizona when he was just crushing CU through the years. Defensive Rookie of the Year from UCLA, a former walk-on in college, linebacker Carson Swetchinger. And Coach of the Year, Mike Vrabel. And Comeback Player of the Year, Valor Christian's own local Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey, folks, is quietly, and maybe not so quietly, but his career has been a little interrupted by injuries. He's putting together a Hall of Fame case. And when you look at Roger Craig finally going in, he's got a real case now, Christian McCaffrey, to be a Hall of Famer. It's just the production's there, both as a runner and receiver. He's just a very unique player in that way. So we're watching this game. Sunday has arrived. What do you think? What do you think, folks? And again, I'm going to just keep it real with you. A lot of compliments I get about the pod are, hey, you don't sugarcoat it. If the Broncos had been in this game, there was no way in hell I was picking them to win. I thought they had a chance to beat the Patriots, and frankly, they did. It came down to 2 plays, not taking the points and a huge turnover by Jarrett Stidham. Like, the one thing he couldn't do is have that kind of turnover. He could have had it on the other end of the field, but not there, given the way the Broncos defense was playing. It was just it was essentially pick 6, the way that turnover worked out. But they had a chance to win that game. Had a couple missed field goals. Very clearly could have won 13-10 type game. Jared Stidham against the Seahawks. Yikes. Not a great matchup. Not a great matchup for the Broncos. There's no way I'm picking the Broncos to win that game against the Seahawks defense. I don't know how much if you've watched. Obviously, if you gamble red zone, you probably see some of this. But the Seahawks defense conjures images of their defense that crushed the Broncos in Super Bowl 48. They don't have the fun nickname, the Legion of Boom. I think they call themselves the Dark Side. But Leonard Williams, the rookie from South Carolina, the safety, his name's escaping me. They're just fast at every level. Every time I watch them, especially against the Niners, they are so fast and they tackle so well. And they run that scheme where they don't play, they don't blitz a lot at all. They're very basic, but they keep the ball in front of them and they just, boom, they get there. Boom, they get there and they tackle. There's not a lot of yards after catch, and they will get after the quarterback. Mike McDonald, he was the brains behind the Ravens defense. I think you've seen that, given how much the Ravens defense has suffered since he left. But had the Broncos been in that game, simple story, I would not have picked them to win. And frankly, it's not a big difference with the Patriots. Patriots are well coached. They do, they're all three phases type team. But their quarterback and their offense have really struggled against the playoffs. It feels like the defenses have improved each way. Where they against the Chargers didn't look great. Against the Texans, not great. That's at that point, Mays put the ball on the ground. He's had 6 fumbles. Then he plays the Broncos. He didn't turn it over, but he had 86 yards passing. He won with his legs, and credit to him. And it was a bad weather game, but well before the weather was an issue, he was not playing well. His completion percentage has been in the 50s in the playoffs. And depending on how you rank these 4 defenses, they're all right there in the tops. Seattle might be the best. For me, they're the fastest. They don't have necessarily the big time edge rushers. They come at you in waves more than they have the one guy you point to, like their Benito or their Will Anderson or their Khalil Mack. But I don't see how the Patriots are going to block him. I mean, Will Campbell, the rookie tackle, everyone's a great that kid. I mean, his strategy against Benito was literally to just cut him and dive at his knees every play. It was unbelievable. So maybe they put the screen game more involved there to slow down the rush. I just don't see how the Patriots can win that game. I'm going to predict the Seahawks win that game 27-16. Something like right around a double-digit victory for the Seahawks. Somewhere around that 27-17. Maybe there's a late score. But for me, the Seahawks, unless Sam Darnold, the valet, brings keys back to a pumpkin and it goes sour for him, there's just no way Seattle's losing that game for me. It could get grimy early. I get it. But I believe Seattle wins the game, and I believe it's going to be around 10 points. And as you watch that game, Broncos country, and we'll finish up here, you're going to see a Seattle defense that's fast. You're going to see with the Patriots a running back in Travion Henderson, who is one of the top rookies in the league. And R.J. Harvey had his 12 touchdowns. I get it. He wasn't one of the top running back in the rushing game. You're going to see Kenneth Walker, a guy I think would look great in the Broncos uniform. But you're going to see that. And you're going to see speed at linebacker with Spillian, and with the Patriots, a guy the Broncos pursued. You're going to see speed at linebacker. So when we do a quick free agent look ahead tied into this game, for me, if the Broncos are going to get back in a position to get to a Super Bowl, if not win it, they've got to add one big weapon on offense that we can point to, either at running back and or receiver. I'm talking about a guy. And, you got Travis Etienne, you got Breece Hall, Walker. I don't typically spin on running back, but again, you're in your Super Bowl window now. So some of the things and the staples we talk about go a little bit out the window at this point because you're in your Super Bowl window. And just counting guys to continue to develop. Some of them you can't microwave. They need more time, and you need to win or get to a Super Bowl when Nick's is still on his rookie contract. That's the best way to do it. It doesn't mean you can't do it other ways, but once he gets paid, everything gets more complicated. Everything instantly gets more complicated. So watch the running backs in this game with Walker. Watch it with Travion Henderson. What does that look like? And then watch the play at inside linebacker. And that's where a guy like Devin Lloyd from Jacksonville, if you wanted to like make a splash, get that guy that we thought Greenlaw was going to be. Greenlaw played 8 games, and he just doesn't look like he's that all-around player that we thought he might be from 2023-ish, that type of guy. I just think those are the middle of the field is where the Broncos have to continue to get better. They did part of it this past year with Talanoa Hufanga. And when he was paired with Brandon Jones, they were absolutely wicked. But to me, look at inside backer, look at running back. These are positions that you're going to watch the Super Bowl and go, the Broncos are going to get better and get to this game. They're going to have to be better at those positions because they do not have a Super Bowl offense right now. They don't. You can argue with me. I'm telling you they don't. They ranked like 26 and 3 and outs last year, 25th the year before, 19 scoreless quarters. That ranked first among all teams among the final 8 in the playoffs. They have to get better offensively. You can't count on going 12 and 3 in 1-score games again with your quarterback having 7 comeback wins. It's unbelievable that Bo Nix has that trait. And knowing it and what it means and the confidence it instills in the locker room and his teammates is unbelievable. I watched it with John Elway years ago. Peyton Manning, it's a quality that you can't teach, but you also can't rely on it. It's not sustainable to win 1-score games. And when you have 15 of they need some room. You need to be leading 14-3 after middle of the second quarter so you can let your defense loose to create more takeaways. They need better weapons. I think you're going to see some scheme shifts specifically to how they run the ball next year. They've got to find their running identity. They wanted to be wide zone. They practiced it all off season and basically abandoned it during the season. Who are you as a run team? That because every metric says they have good run blocking, but the eye test says it's not great. It's just okay. And some of it's on the running backs. But when Javonte Williams leaves and does what he did, I think you got to look to some of the scheme. And what are they doing? What is their identity? What is their identity as a run team? And what can you do to help that? Knowing that R.J. Harvey's going to get better. Maybe you bring back Dobbins. I would love if he was more of a platoon player, given his health issues. But I would love it more if you have a true one that's going to be healthy, that's going to get you 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. And I would add competition to the wide receiver room, whatever that looks like. It'd probably be a trade more than or draft than it would be free agency. And the one place I look at on that defense is inside linebacker, where you could get a guy that is who Greenlaw was supposed to be. So watch the Super Bowl. Try to enjoy it. I know it's hard. The feelings for the Patriots will never go away because of the Manning-Brady rivalry. It's always there. No one that I know in Denver that's a Broncos fan would be rooting for the Patriots. But both these teams, the Broncos have had tough luck losses to them. The Seahawks crushed them in Super Bowl 48. And again, I would have not have picked the Broncos to win this. I will pick, and I am now, Seahawks to win. But watch that game and where can the Broncos improve? And it's so much better to have this conversation where it's like, man, one thing here, they're right here. It used to be, man, if they get 8 new starters and a new quarterback and a new coach, watch out. They're so close, but they're not there yet. Watch that game with that in mind and see what you think on where they should improve. Broncos Cruncher, I could not do this pod without Darby Hoggatt of Hoggatt Injury Law, my A1 from day one. Ted Shih and Ted Shih's family law practice. And of course, Mile High Sports, Nate Lundy and Danny Bailey. Danny does all the graphics. He keeps everything set behind the screen. Thank you so much for your support this season. The football NFL season officially ends on Sunday. And then here we go. Combine time. I will be at the combine, then free agency, then the draft. It never stops. Broncos country, I do this pod for you. Happiness that begins with me. Go out there and have a great day.